Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have a really fun project that you can do for decorating your house this fall. You can do it with your kids, and it's so much fun. You can customize it so that it's just generic fall, or you can put some facey things on here and make yourself a little jack-o'-lantern. So I'll leave that up to you, whatever you want to do. But we're going to get started with this project, and we are using supplies from our sponsor, Paper Mart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com. Let's take a look at what we're going to use today. We're going to use some crepe paper in green and orange. We are going to use some twisted paper cord, just a little bit of it. So if you don't have a roll of it, you can twist up some crepe paper and it'll work just fine. But if you have this, it's really a great texture to use. We are going to use some floral wire and some jute cord, and then you're just going to need your basic craft supplies. I've got a protractor and a ruler. I'll show you why we need that in a minute. Scissors, wire cutters, of course, for our wire, and some ink pads and some chalk, because we're going to use that to color. And we're also going to use our spray inks that we made in a previous video. I'll put a link below the video so you can check that out. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to cut the orange crepe paper into circles. And we're going to need about 12 to 16 circles. So what I do is I fold it over a couple times, and then I trace something round and just cut it out. So you could use like a masking tape. I use the masking tape roll for the one I just showed you. Just trace it out as many times as you can get it, cut it out with a pair of scissors, and you're good to go. Or if you have a die cut machine, you can do that as well. Then you'll need to cut a couple of leaves out of the green, and I used a die cutter for that, but you could freehand that, and then you are in business. So we need to make a little gluing jig to make our little honeycomb pumpkin, and it's very simple. So what you want to do is to trace a circle of whatever it is that you are using, and since I'm not using this big circle this time, I'm going to use a smaller one and show you how I did it. Alright, so you also need to cut out a circle from cardstock as well. So I'm just going to trace out this, as I've already cut my circles. And then you're going to need to fold your cardstock circle in half, and you can use construction paper. If you don't have cardstock, it's not a big deal. And then you just want to make a mark in the middle, just so you know what side you're going to be using for your jig. Now you want to put a protractor here at the 0 point, so you're bisecting your circle. And what you want to do is make marks every 30 degrees. So I'm going to put one at 90, one at 60, one at 30. I'm going to go over here at 120 and 150. And then you want to number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just to make sure I don't get confused, I'm going to color code them as well. So I'm going to make my odds green and my evens orange. That way I definitely will not get confused, because we're going to be gluing these in a special way that when we open up our papers, when we have them all glued together, we'll get this cool honeycomb effect. So now you want to put your circle down like that, and I want to just kind of hold it to the paper, so I'm going to use a little bit of masking tape. Just take a little piece of masking tape or painter's tape and just roll it over itself so you get a little double-sided stickiness. It's not too sticky. Stick that on your template and put that down. Now, if you're doing this with kids, I recommend you use a tacky glue. Elmer's glue isn't quite strong enough to hold the crepe paper because of the texture that it has. It's much thicker than party streamers or tissue paper. It's a really rugged paper, so you need something strong. So you want to use tacky glue or Beacon 3-in-1 or Helmar, something like that. But since I'm doing this for the video and I'm not working with kids, I'm going to use my hot glue gun. So the first time I glue, I'm going to glue on 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so I'm gluing on my odd numbers. And then I am going to place a piece of my crepe paper down. Now I'm going to put glue down on 2 and 4. And I'm going to alternate until I've used up all of my paper. Now it'll take about 16 squares to do a half round, like for our plaque. So if you wanted to do a full round pom-pom, just use twice as many. So use 32 and you'd be able to do a full round, and that's kind of cool. It's great for hanging up at parties, and you can fold them away. As long as you don't glue your cardstock ends together, you can fold it away to use another time, so you don't have to leave it up all the time. Alright, now that you have that last one glued down, you want to pull your little stack of, looks like a taco, your stack of papers off your jig or your template, and you're going to want to cut your circle in half. And you could have done that before if you want to. I just like to keep all my pieces together until I'm ready for it, so I don't lose anything. I have the tendency to do that. Now I'm going to glue this to the bottom end. So you're essentially kind of making a like crepe paper sandwich here. Let's put that right on there. When I set this aside, I will give you a little peek in there how it's coming out there, but we want to make sure that glue is all the way cool before we mess with it too much. So the next thing we need is some cardboard to build our little picture on. I've got a couple pieces of scrap mat board. This is like a tan and this is a green. You can use cereal boxes that you paint. You can use construction paper glued onto cereal boxes or cardboard. Whatever you have will be just fine for this. And the earthier it looks, the better. But since I also do custom picture framing, I had this already in hand. So what I want to do is kind of fancy this background up. So I am going to take a nice large corner stamp, and I am going to stamp this in each of the top corners and give it kind of some cool fall colors. And I can see it's very hard, kind of hard to see, but this is a clear ink that will make chalk stick really well. So I'm just going to use a sponge and some chalk colors here. And see, when I dab, isn't that cool? You can really see the design. So I'm just gonna rub some chalk in the background, and I'm also going to do a little bit on the bottom. I'm going to use some greens at the bottom to kind of make it look like grasses. Now that I have that all chalked up, I am going to add some ink to the edges to make a nice border. Just like that. It's just going to give it a little bit of a rougher look, kind of make it look a little bit creepy. And I want to draw some spiders and spider webs, so I'm just going to kind of come out here and sketch on some spider webs. It's up to you whether you want to put the spider webs on, or if you want to leave it more of a generic fall craft, then skip the spider webs. It's completely up to you because it's your project. Little spiders on there. You could use a stamp too. The first one I did, I used a stamp, but then I'm like, why? I actually like the hand-drawn spiders better because they're each a little different. And I can make it have wiggly strings to hang from. Alright, so now we can glue our pumpkin down. See, we've got a nice round pumpkin there, looking good. So you just want to put some hot glue on the back. Actually, I think it might be better to put it right here where you want it. A little easier to place it without burning your fingers. Just don't put your glue out further than where you want your pumpkin to be, because you might have to shift it around a little bit and wiggle it around. You don't want to have a glue mess everywhere. So just position it in there, wiggle it around, make sure the glue has grabbed everything, and then just be patient for a few minutes while the glue cools. Now we're going to make the stem and vines. So this is kind of fun. For the vines, you just want to take some of the floral wire and wrap it around a marker or a pen or a bottle. It just depends on how big of spirals you want. See, that's kind of a nice spiral. I can snip that off. I'm going to make a couple so that I have them ready to go. Now for the stems, we simply just want to cut a couple inches of the twisted paper cord off. If you have green, great. If not, use white or yellow, and then you can spray it to match. And actually you're going to get a prettier stem this way and look more realistic because you'll have different tones of color. So you just want to spray it and then just kind of rub a green ink pad over it. I really like the Distress inks for this type of project and this type of look, and I can kind of stick my stem in there. I have one that's already dried that we're going to use. And then while we're at it, we can just ink up these little die cuts. Now the cool thing, if you do decide to use a die cut machine to cut your crepe paper, it does cut easily by scissors, but if you have dies, especially if you're getting ready for a classroom craft, most of the school machines have like big circles and leaves and things like that, so you can definitely save some time there. You can do at least 4 layers. If you've got the thick dies, you can probably do 6 or 7 or 8, but even with the thin dies, you can do 4 layers of the crepe paper, so that's kind of nice. It's a real time saver. And I'm just gonna swirl these leaves around in the ink a little bit more. And let's see how our little stem is going to fit in there. I'm going to trim that off a little bit because it's a little too long. And then I'm going to glue that down. You can use the tacky glue if you're working with kids, but I'm just using the hot glue because I want to make sure it's not going to take too long here. And I want to add some little tendrils right in there. Just get that little end under there. And then maybe even secure it down over here where I can lift up the edge. That way I won't have any sharp pokey bits that's gonna hurt anybody. You just want to put your tendrils down wherever you think they'll be pleasing. And the same thing with our little leaves. You can put those in wherever you like. I think I'm going to stick that one right there. Maybe add a little more glue to help that wire stick down. So go ahead and put your leaves and wires in, and we'll be back to finish it up. Now, I thought this one might be kind of fun to make a jack-o'-lantern face on, so I'm going to go ahead and glue on these little shapes I cut out of scrap paper. That's why I always keep those little scraps of cardstock around, because they always come in handy for little additions like this. And all you have to do is cut out very simple shapes. Kids can definitely do this. And jumbo googly eyes are always fun. You can even pick those up at the dollar store if you don't already have them on hand. Alright, now we can set this aside to cool, set that so the hot glue can cool, or the tacky glue can dry, depending on what you're using. And then to give this a gilded edge, I'll show you how we do this on one side, then we'll do the other sides off camera so that you can get the gist of it. We're going to use gold embossing powder, and we're going to use that same clear ink pad. And what you want to do is really press that ink pad along the edges. You can kind of see where it's shiny there, I think, if I tip it. And then you want to just sprinkle the edge with embossing powder. Now, don't worry about the stuff that's falling onto the mat. That can be dumped back in the jar, so just make sure that you do this with a piece of paper or a mat underneath it so that you can put that back in the jar. And then all you have to do is heat it with a heat gun. Check this out. When the embossing powder gets hot and melts, it's going to leave you with an almost gold-leafed look. Just like magic. So you want to do that to all four sides. The next thing you want to do, we're going to need a hole punch, but first I want to glue our pumpkin here onto the backing panel. Looks so cool, that frame, doesn't it? I think so. So just use your hot glue, or again, you can use your tacky glue. Just make sure you allow time for it to dry. Just glue that on there good and center it right up. And then you just need to poke a couple holes for the jute that we're going to hang this with. I'm using my crocodile because it can handle punching through this thick cardboard. If you don't have a crocodile, you can use a hand awl or something like that to poke through it. That'll work just fine. And then what I do here, this is a little trick. I'm going to get double the length of between my holes there. I'm going to snip it. And then because this jute is really thick, I want to, it's going to fray if I try to go through both holes with one end, so I'm just going to do each end through like that from the front. And make sure I twist it up really small too before I attempt to put it through the hole. And then I'm just going to tie these two together in a double knot. And there you have it. It is a cute fall plaque that you can hang up on your front door or in your house. Decorate for fall, decorate for Halloween, customize it however you would like. I want to thank you so much for watching, and most of all, thank our sponsor Paper Mart for donating these lovely materials that we use today. You can check them out online at www.papermart.com, where we make you look even better. And if you want some more fabulous fall projects, take a look. We've got a corny fall brooch craft, we've got a kids collage landscape craft, and we have that spray ink craft that I told you about, so you can make your very own sponge daubers and spray ink. So check those videos out. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy crafting.